Manjula, how many participants, Manjula?
We had over 100, I think about
That's a good number.
115. Yeah, by end of the day yesterday.
Okay, maybe
So,
today in the morning also.
yeah, have to see how many will actually attend, but I think we should have a fairly good number.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good number. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Narayana.
Video call එකකින් connect
හරි
ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන්
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ හැටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝටර් ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් වැඩේ ෆෙයා ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට් හොඳම ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න
අපි එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් connect
හරි
ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ හැටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝටර් ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් වැඩේ ෆෙයා ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට් හොඳම ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න
අපි එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් connect
හරි
ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ හැටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝටර් ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් වැඩේ ෆෙයා ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට් හොඳම ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න
හෙලෝ
අපි එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් connect
ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ හැටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝටර් ඉන්ෂුරන්ස්
මොනවදනේ මං විතරනේ මේ ඔයා කොහෙද ඉන්නේ
ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ හැටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝට ඉන්ශුරන්ස් වැඩි දෙයක් ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට්. හොඳම ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න.
අපි එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ. සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් කනෙක්ට් කරමු.
ඉන්ශුරන්ස් ඉන්ශුරන්ස්
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ.
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ ඇටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝට ඉන්ශුරන්ස් වැඩි දෙයක් ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට්. හොඳම ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න.
අපි එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ. සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් කනෙක්ට් කරමු.
හරි
ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද?
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ.
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ ඇටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝට ඉන්ශුරන්ස් වැඩි දෙයක් ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට්. හොඳම ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න.
එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ. සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් කනෙක්ට් කරමු.
හරි
ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද?
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ.
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ ඇටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝට ඉන්ශුරන්ස් වැඩි දෙයක් ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට්. හොඳම ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න.
අපි එනකන් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ. සර් වීඩියෝ කෝල් එකකින් කනෙක්ට් කරමු.
හරි
ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකෙන් එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැද්ද?
මොකටද ක්ලේම් එක ඇප්රූව් යන ගමන් කෑෂ් ගමු
පිස්සුනේ.
නෑ ඒ ෆෙයා ෆස්ට් එකේ ඇටි
රස්තියාදුවක් නැති මෝට ඉන්ශුරන්ස් වැඩි දෙයක් ක්ලේම් එක ෆාස්ට්. හොඳම ඉන්ශුරන්ස් එකට අදම මාරු වෙන්න.
Morning, Priyanka.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining in today's webinar. As usual, we have a very intellectual panel today, and today's discussion will be on the insurance industry's response towards the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us here today, we have our CEO, Mr. Manjula De Silva, as the moderator. But before I hand over to Manjula De Silva, I would like to request all of you to adhere to a few basic house rules. That is to keep your microphones on mute and your cameras switched off. We only request the panel to switch on their camera and the microphones during their turn to speak. This will ensure that everybody gets the best of this webinar. And thank you very much again to our sponsor, Fairfirst Insurance, for coming on board to sponsor this webinar. Now let me hand over to Mr. Manjula De Silva to take over the webinar. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I can be heard.
We can hear you.
Right. Okay. So warm welcome to everyone to this webinar on insurance industry's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which is organized by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce in association with the Insurance Association of Sri Lanka, IASL, with Fairfirst Insurance. So I'm happy to be back again doing something with the insurance industry after a while. And if I begin my opening remarks by describing insurance as a tool for risk management, or more specifically, a tool for risk transfer, you all know that typically when disaster strikes, people expect the insurance industry to come forward with some form of relief. And in the case of most disasters like a fire or a flood, this often happens, and the insurance industry plays a big role in providing relief to the unfortunate victims of such a disaster. But when the COVID-19 pandemic hit us, this came completely out of the blues, and it is something we would typically call a black swan event, because it's a very rare and unexpected occurrence. So when we were hit by this pandemic, how prepared was the insurance industry and the whole insurance market to deal with this? This is a question that we would like to discuss today. And also, were there any gaps in coverage? And if so, going forward, how can we address those gaps so that we will be better prepared to deal with even the most unexpected event that we could anticipate in future. So that is one aspect we need to be discussing today. And another feature of the COVID-19 pandemic is that the direct costs of the pandemic were minimal, because these were very much taken care of by the state, because the patients were treated in a government hospital and most other facilities were also provided by the government. But the indirect losses to businesses in particular have been huge, which have completely crippled and paralyzed a lot of companies as well as entire business sectors. So once again, the question here is, how far can the insurance industry go towards meeting these kind of indirect losses and indirect costs of a disaster of this nature? So again, these are some of the questions that we would like to discuss during the course of today's webinar. If I may now explain to you the structure of today's program. We will start off with brief presentations by each panel member. There are 4 panel members and each one of them will take roughly about 10 minutes each. After which we'll have a round of questions to the panel from me as the moderator, followed by a Q&A session based on questions from participants, which you can post on the chat box. Unfortunately, we will not be able to allow participants a chance to speak using the mic because in a webinar it is a bit difficult to manage the time constraints. So you can post your questions on the chat box and I will pick them and post them to the panel. So today I'm very happy to let you know that we have an excellent panel of resource people drawn from the insurance industry. We have Dr. Jagath Alvis, Director Technical and Chief Technical Officer of Selinco General Insurance Limited, veteran in the insurance industry. Then we also have Pranama Pereira, Chief Technical Officer of SoftLogic Life, Anuradha Siriwardana, Senior Vice President Technical of Orient Insurance, and Rianta Pereira, General Manager, Underwriting, Portfolio and Reinsurance from Fairfirst Insurance Limited. All very well-known people from the insurance industry, covering a wide range of areas of expertise. So we have people who can touch on any aspect of insurance today in this panel. So with that initial introduction, I would now like to invite Dr. Jagath Alvis to make the first presentation. Over to you, Jagath.
Good morning, everybody. Congratulations to Manjula and his team for organizing this. Manjula was with us for a very long time in the insurance industry. So it's a pleasure to be with you on the panel again, where I have done many times during your in the insurance industry. I would say it's asset lost to insurance industry, Manjula, actually. And my pleasant task today is to explain about the business interruption insurance and how it responds to an event like COVID-19. And it's actually something like which you take about 3-4 hours to explain the entire business interruption insurance. So, but my pleasant task today is to summarize it in 10 minutes. So business interruption insurance is also known as loss of profits insurance or consequential loss insurance. But even though you call it a loss of profit insurance, it does not guarantee profits of an insurance company or of an insured, but it's guarantee a loss or compensate a loss followed by a peril operated. In other words, to get a business interruption insurance policy, you have to have a material damage insurance policy, that is property insurance, which covers fire, malicious damage, explosion, natural catastrophes, so on and so forth. And if you have a property insurance policy, then the consequential of loss of the property losses under the property policy could be covered under the business interruption insurance. So basic criteria is that you have to have a property insurance covering certain perils. Such perils will be extended to your business interruption insurance. And during after a peril operated, maybe a flood or fire, under your material damage, there should be a valid claim under that particular policy. And then you decide the business interruption period. It could be 6 months to 1 year, depending on the business. The insured and the insurance company has to negotiate the business interruption period. And if you get a longer period than 1 year, definitely there will be some additional premium. So this is how the business interruption policy, the basic concept of business interruption insurance. It covers the losses. If there's a loss under your material damage policy, the consequence to that, the losses will cover of the business interruption policy. What you covered under business interruption policy is your gross profit, estimated gross profit. Or in the other, you can also explain it, net profit, estimated net profit, plus fixed charges, standing charges you want to cover. So for example, the standing charges, somebody might say, okay, I don't want to cover electricity, cost of electricity, because when there's a loss, I may not use electricity. Somebody might say water charges. So you can delete what is not required. Most of the people, they'll cover basically salaries, bank interest, some cover their other fixed charges, where even after a loss your profits, or you have to pay certain fixed expenses. So to continue such expenses, that will the business interruption policy will respond. And also some additional things, additional cost of working, additional working capital, or the additional cost of expenses to reduce the losses will also be covered under separate item. And there's another thing coming like loss of rent. If you are renting your property, part of your property, loss of rent or the alternate accommodation which is required during an interruption period, that could be covered. Those two items could be covered under your fire policy. So that need not to come to the business interruption policy. The alternate accommodation and the loss of rent, if you part or whole of the building is rented, that could be covered under your original fire policy. So in addition to the basic cover, you can also cover the preparing account, the cost of preparing your accounts and the auditor's charges and things like that. Because for a business interruption claim, after interruption, you have to incur a lot of money for your financial people, or maybe hiring outside consultants to restore your accounts, and also to prepare the bill, the insurance claim, I would say. So this is the basic interruption policy, and which will cover your interruption during the interruption period, which could be even 12 months and even more than 12 months. 6 to 12 months is the standard. Most of the clients take the indemnity period as 6 to 12 months. And here you compare your past growth in the turnover, gross profit, and the actual expenses you incurred to ascertain the estimated loss or ascertain the incurred loss during the indemnity period. But in addition to the basic cover, there are a few extensions. One is called suppliers extension. And it could be named suppliers or unnamed suppliers. That is, for example, you are not affected. There is no material damage to your factory, but your supplier is affected. So you will not get the raw materials until you find another supplier. So during that period, your gross profit could be affected. You are not affected, your factory is there, everything is fine, but your supplier couldn't supply. This is very important when you need a very specific, specialized items as raw materials. Then there's another extension, customers extension. You are not affected, but your named customers or unnamed customers could be affected under the same peril. Say, for example, even suppliers extension, if you are taken floods and the supplier's premises affected by floods, then there is a claim. But if it is affected by a peril which is not covered under your con loss policy or material damage policy, then there's no cover. And the suppliers extension, after that I said the customers extension. The customers extension is you sometimes produce something for a very specific customer. And this happened during the Thai floods in 2013. And most of the electronic factories, the well-known electronic factories located in Thailand, the customers were the factories affected in different countries. Say, for example, a Sony, the Thai factory will manufacture something, some chips or computer chips or something like that, which is used by a factory in Korea. So your supplier, so you are, in that case, there were claims because of the Korean company, because your supplier is affected. The Korean insurance companies has to pay, or the Taiwan insurance companies have to pay claims because the supply of their factory insured is affected. Similarly, the customers. There were instances, even there was a Sri Lankan factory, supplying their customer were in Thailand, were manufacturing some specialized equipment using some computer chips manufactured by the local company. So that was affected. You cannot supply that particular item to another customer. If you can find a customer, yes, that's fine. But if you cannot find a customer, you will lose. So that's what you mean by the customer's extension. Then we come to infectious diseases, suicide, and food poisoning. This is if an infectious disease, maybe like Corona-19, is originate from your factory premises, and the authorities, the local authorities or the government or the police close down your factory for a specific purpose, then the insurer will respond during the close down period. The insurer will respond and they will pay the loss of gross profit during that particular period. Similarly, sometimes the hotels, there's a suicide. Then the people may not come for a few months or few weeks. So then your gross profit could be affected. And I could remember when there was a World Cup in West Indies, the Pakistan coach suicide inside his hotel room. And all guests who stayed in the hotel vacate the hotel. So the hotel has to come forward and at least to sell. Sometimes it's a 5-star brand, $10, $20, because their turnover is affected. And this is very the misunderstanding during the Corona-19 period. If there is a corona, which is not the infectious disease, which was not affected or originate from your factory, whether the insurance companies will come forward and pay the loss of profits during that period. It's not. It has to originate. It's called the premises risk. Corona or any infectious diseases should originate from your place. Secondly, or suicide or food poisoning take place at your place. And due to that, you close down, the government authorities come and close down the factory. But this cover, some insurers, they give, in addition to your premises, they extend it to 1 kilometer radius, 10 kilometer radius, or 20 kilometer radius. So which means the infectious disease has occurred, originates within the 10 kilometer radius, or the 20 kilometer radius, or 1 kilometer radius, and they still, the factory is closed down, all areas, all factories and everything is closed down, forced to close down. It's in a situation like this, the insurance will respond. However, in the situation in our country and whole world, is a lockdown by the government. There's not a single patient found in the factory, your premises, or within the radius, but still you are locked down. So in a situation like that, the insurance will not respond. On the other hand, say for example, now everything is 90% normal in Sri Lanka, and suddenly a patient you'll find in your factory or your premises, and your factory and the premises is closed down by the authorities for 1 month or 2 weeks or whatever it is. In that case, then the insurance company will have to respond, because it originates from your factory and your factory was closed down due to that. And there are a few other extensions, like civil authority. The civil authorities may close down your factory due to operation of the same peril at some other place, but your factory is not affected. There's no material damage, but the civil authorities, they decide, the government authority decide to close down your factory as well. In which case, if the peril is covered under your material damage policy, consequential loss policy, the insurer will respond. And similarly, public utility clause. There's a special clause called public utility. So for example, your electricity and your water is other public utilities, and that particular place is where the electricity board premises or whatever it is affected, and there's no supply. The water board couldn't supply. The motors were affected due to a peril covered under your policy. As a result, your factory, you cannot operate. There's no loss to your factory, in which case, still, the insurance companies will have to respond. These are extensions, and there could be various, when you are giving extension, the wording could be changed from one company to another company. Then there's another clause, public utility clause, denial of access. So for example, people cannot come to your premises. The workers cannot come to your premises. Denial of access cover. Because there's a flood operated in the city and affected your village, the factories is affected by floods. You cannot come. In that case, if the flood is covered under your policy, your material damage, even though there's no material loss to your factory, then the insurance companies will have to respond if the extension denial of access has taken. These are the basic extensions under under the consequential loss insurance policies. And I would like to get some examples. In France, one insurance company has given for cover for restaurants, saying that if the restaurant is closed down, a situation beyond the control of the insured, the restaurant owner, and they will pay consequential losses of that restaurant, the loss of gross profit for a particular period, maybe 1 month, 6 months, and things like that. And those companies, because they have given sort of open wording, and the insurance companies who are given that cover in France will have to pay those claims, and they have done it. Similarly, in Europe, they have found different insurance have given various covers, and some without any restrictions. So now it's in courts, and the court is going to decide whether it's covered or not. And most of the policies, what we issued, we have this wording, it's very clear. And some all risk policies issued in European countries, particularly UK, there's some ambiguity and also disputes about wording. Now it's in course, and very soon that decision will take. But that's also not all companies. Only 6 or 7 companies. There's cases against 6 or 7 companies, and the regulatory authorities also looking into those wording issue. And even in Sri Lanka, I would say the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Sri Lanka, Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, has called the wording of all insurance policies to study whether there's any claim on the particular wording or not. And they have found that most of the insurance companies have this similar wording, and there's no legitimate claim on such insurance companies. So these are very basic introduction about the loss of profits insurance or the consequential loss insurance. And I think within 10 minutes, I have covered, give a basic coverage, but you could ask any questions during the Q&A time, or even Manjula can ask any questions as the chair of the session. And thank you very much for your patient listening, and all your questions you could send it to, text it to Chamber of Commerce number given. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jagat, for that excellent explanation of BI insurance. So I think now everybody will have a clear idea about in what instances you can make a claim on a BI policy and where that is not applicable. But I think he brought out a lot of interesting points. Maybe we should try to come back to that topic later on again during the Q&A session. But in the interest of time, let's move on. And I would now like to invite Pranama Pereira, Chief Technical Officer, SoftLogic Life, to make his initial presentation. Over to you, Pranama.
Thanks, Manjula. Allow me to share my slides with you. I hope everyone can see the slides. Hello?
Not yet, no. Pranama. We can see you, but not the slides.
Okay, give me a second. Can you see the screen now?
No. Do you need the chamber team to put the slides up? Amanda, maybe you can do it from here.
All right. Let me try once more. And if it's not working, we will do that. Can you see it now?
No, not yet.
All right, then we'll go for the backup.
Yeah, Amanda, can you do it from your end?
Yes, we will share it now.
Yeah, it's on, Pranama. You can start.
Right. Okay. Thanks and good morning, everybody. Amanda, you are controlling the slides. Can we go to the second, please? And okay, and the third, if you don't mind, because of the time constraint. Amanda, can go to the third slide, please? Right. Okay. So let me start my presentation with the word love. We are actually a loving nation. We love our country. We love our neighbors. Most of all, we love our family. All that we do is for them, and we have dreams for our loved ones. Life insurance actually helps you to fulfill those dreams, irrespective of whether you are there with them or not. For this is the most valuable gift of life insurance to the society. You may think life insurance is only about paying claims when someone dies. It is not so. You will also be financially protected if you happen to survive after contracting a critical illness or meeting with an accident. Not only that, life insurance can be used as a means of saving for the future. May it be the retirement fund, your child's higher education, a family wedding, or anything else. You can plan all those by taking a life insurance cover. So before proceeding further, hope we have a common consensus of the importance of life insurance to the society. Amanda, next slide, please. Yeah. However, unfortunately, we have not given the due recognition for life insurance. Majority of the customers buy life insurance after fulfilling all their other requirements in life. May it be building a house, buying a vehicle, spending money for all entertainment needs for that fact. We also unfairly compare life insurance with other saving instruments such as mutual funds, bank fixed deposits, stock and equity market, but ignore the most important part, the protection and peace of mind it provides. As a result, life insurance penetration in Sri Lanka stands as low as 0.54% of GDP. In a developed country, this figure can be 10 times higher. As a nation, we have seen advances in areas such as internet penetration, mobile connectivity, so forth, may it be online banking, online payments, but yet to see that trend in life insurance industry. This does not mean our society is immune to uncertainty. In general, 75% of the total deaths in Sri Lanka are due to non-communicable diseases and out of that, around 15% are premature deaths. Next slide, Amanda, please. Thank you. Okay. When the situation is such, came COVID-19 impact to the insurance industry. We all felt it as no one was spared. The entire country was in a lockdown situation for almost 3 months. So what does that mean? It means all businesses were struggling. Employment rates, salary cuts, there was uncertainty about the future. And people start prioritizing their spending. Needless to say, from what I have explained already, you and I will agree that who are the top contenders for the cost cutting. Life insurance, unfortunately, was at the forefront. So if you can see the graph, it clearly tells the story of COVID impact in my company. And I'm sure it is the same with the rest. Amanda, move on. So life industry responded aggressively to arrest the situation. One is to ensure continuation of cover, which is very important for life. Then the other is to provide customary services such as policy processing, endorsement, claim servicing, and all. When looking at continuation of cover, the industry gave 3-month grace period to pay premium instead of the standard 30-day grace. For renewals, that is for renewals due from 1st of March to 30th June. In addition to that, we also introduced installment plans to pay the balance premium by the end of the grace period. We went one step ahead and gave the option to activate policies by paying only 1 month premium and extended the term of the cover according to the period that the policy was lapsed. Not only that, the life industry honored all claims that was intimated during the grace period. And I'm very happy to say, by taking all these precautionary proactive measures, we have managed to activate around 80% of the lapsed policies due to COVID impact by now. Amanda, I can't see the slides. Can
Pranama, we have someone sharing the screen. Taraka, can you please unshare your screen?
So I will, yeah, Amanda?
We will put the slides back on.
Thank you. So let's go to the other slide, Amanda. The next one, please. Yeah, thank you. No, the slide before that. Yeah, thank you. So, I was talking about the continuation earlier, and then the industry response on servicing. So, securing the existing book of business was not good enough. We have to find ways and means to acquire new business for growth, even with COVID-19. So, luckily, by the time that COVID hit Sri Lanka, we were 100% on tap proposal forms, meaning there is a continuation of new business generation even with the lockdown period. We managed to establish work from home within 2 days of lockdown by providing laptops and connectivity to all staff members, and ensured servicing happens seamlessly. We also extended our cashless facility for hospitalization claims, developed apps as well as used WhatsApp Viber platforms for non-hospitalization claim submissions. Not only that, earlier we used to settle claims by issuing checks. During this period, we totally shifted towards slip and SWIFT transfers instead. I'm on the next slide. Yeah, so for me, COVID-19 was not a dark cloud with a silver lining, but a silver cloud with a dark lining. Yes, it had its short-term negative impact to the life industry, but it pushed life companies beyond boundaries to think out of the box and come up with solutions. It is also an eye-opener for the general public to see the value of life insurance. The changes that it made during this period is for the future. And I'm certain that future is very bright for life insurance industry. So with the last slide, I'll conclude. Amanda? Yeah. So to give you a glimpse of the future, right? COVID taught us how to work from home. Today, the entire operations team of SoftLogic Life, the company that I work in, is 100% permanently working from home. And it's not a temporary solution, and it's a permanent solution. So that is one of the changes that COVID made to my company and to my team. So with that, I conclude. Thank you.
Thanks, Pranama, for that excellent presentation on the value of life insurance, as well as how the life insurance industry has responded to the COVID-19 crisis. And I was very happy to hear at the end that you all are now working from home 100%. This is something the Chamber also encourages, and we would like many others to look at the opportunity of following suit wherever possible. We know that every industry cannot do, but wherever possible, there are many potential benefits of adopting that kind of a work from home model. So with that, now can I invite our next presenter, Anuradha Sirivardhana, Senior Vice President, Technical from Orient Insurance, to make this presentation.
Thanks, Manjula. First of all, let me thank Chamber of Commerce and the Insurance Association of Sri Lanka for inviting me for this webinar. Now, I will straight away get into my topic due to the time constraints. Even though Sri Lanka has seen the pandemic curve being flattened out, the financial impact has left many scars which need immediate attention. I think Pranama briefly described about some of the challenges faced by the life insurance industry. I think as a general insurance industry, we also face many challenges, including default of payments, policy cancellation, and etc. At the same time, we as industry understand that many people look for solutions through insurance to overcome some of the new challenges faced by them. So in that respect, health is one of the main topics discussed all over the world. Therefore, today I will discuss about the health insurance. So I will divide it into two segments. One is the medical insurance, that is commonly known as surgical and hospitalization expenses. The other area is the health benefit provided under the travel insurance policies. So what is health insurance? Health insurance is an insurance product which covers medical and surgical expenses of an insured individual. So it provides two types of facilities. One is you can reimburse the expenses that you incurred while in the hospital. The other one is where the insurance industry or the insurance company will directly pay to your hospital. And there are two elements or the two sections under health insurance. One is outpatient benefits, commonly known as OPD, and then inpatient benefit, that is commonly known as IPD, which covers hospitalization expenses when a policyholder is admitted to a hospital for at least 24 hours for any treatment. Now the question is whether the insurance industry pay for COVID-19. I think you may have seen, as industry, we have seen a lot of people asking whether we can cover COVID-19. In general, most of the health insurance policies issued by the general insurance industry covers COVID-19, which means there's no exclusion in the policy to that effect. However, there have been different level of coverage offered by insurance companies. Some may have different terms and conditions. Now we have seen some policies exclude communicable diseases requiring isolation by law or quarantine, or epidemics or pandemics. So in other words, there is no cover for COVID-19 from that type of policy. So I suggest you to go through your policy wording, and if there are any gaps, probably you can ask your insurance company to fix it, or probably you can negotiate with the insurance company. However, the insurance industry had many discussions over these issues, and most of the companies, even though there are certain exclusions under the policies, agreed to cover or pay for such events in the event of a hospitalization of a patient. And basically, OPD covers laboratory tests prescribed by a doctor, so that is very important. Voluntarily, you can go and do a test. The doctor, based on the need, has to prescribe a test. So that will be taken care of under the OPD section of the policy. And IPD, of course, now there's a dilemma: how do we compensate our patients? Now, most of the Sri Lankan policies, we have given per day allowance for government hospitalizations. For COVID-19, almost all the treatments are given in government facilities, so they are zero cost. But still, the insurance industry agreed that we will pay that per day allowance for patients as an inconvenience allowance. So I will now move on to, I think it's very clear about the health insurance, very straightforward, unlike business interruption. So I will move on to the travel insurance policy. So what is travel insurance? Travel insurance is a product for covering unforeseen losses incurred while traveling internationally. There are certain markets that issue for local traveling as well, but in Sri Lanka, commonly we issue travel insurance policies for overseas travel. Basic policy generally cover emergency medical expenses while in overseas, and also it has personal accident cover. But you need to understand, planned treatments, surgeries are explicitly excluded under travel insurance policy. So unlike medical insurance, the travel insurance policy will not pay for any planned treatments or surgeries. And there are so many other extensions given under travel insurance, such as baggage delay, loss of baggage, repatriation, trip cancellation, trip curtailment, and many more. So, I mean, go through the policy wordings and understand what type of coverages given by the insurance industry or the insurance company, or look into the deductibles and exclusions, so you will understand the basic scope given by your insurance company. And So how did we respond to the COVID-19? One element, one of the main important factor that we cannot forget is reinsurance. You may know that reinsurance plays a vital role in insurance industry. So we write a risk and we spread the risk. So we will not keep it to ourselves, that is as a risk mitigation or the risk management method used by the insurance industry. So what happened is, this is a global pandemic. Most of the reinsurance companies have immediately declined to give COVID-19 after the WHO declared COVID-19 as pandemic. So it has a ripple effect on in the Sri Lankan insurance industry as well. So what we did was, we also discussed again as an industry, how do we face for these challenges? Because the restrictions coming from the reinsurance industry, we also have to restrict our coverage. So that doesn't mean that we don't cover COVID-19 for the policy that we have already issued. For example, now we declined, or we put the restriction in March 2020. So if someone has taken a policy prior to March, or if someone is already in overseas, we pay for them for COVID-19. Any expenses that if they incurred in taking any treatment in hospitals and etc. And yeah, now the other question is, will my travel insurance policy cover COVID-19 now? Because you may have seen border restrictions are slowly being eased across the world for tourism and travel. There's a high demand for travel insurance, and also many governments have insisted, or they made mandatory to have travel insurance with COVID-19. We have seen that even Sri Lankan government insists the inbound travelers to have travel insurance with COVID-19. So there's a huge challenge for the insurance industry to grant the cover, because there are no historical data to determine the possible losses. So a group of Lankan insurance industry as well as the reinsurers are mutually working towards that, and we are evaluating at the moment all the possibilities to provide COVID-19 cover. That ends my presentation. You may post any questions to Manjula or to the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm happy to answer. So thank you, Manjula.
Thank you, Anuradha, for that excellent presentation on both health as well as travel insurance. We may have a couple of questions for you, but we'll take it up later on.
Sure.
And for the moment, we'll move on to Priyantha Pereira, General Manager, Underwriting, Portfolio and Reinsurance of First Insurance, who will be making the final presentation, after which we will move on to the panel discussion. Over to you, Priyantha.
Thank you, Manjula, and thank you, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce for inviting us, and also ISL for nominating us for this webinar. And today my topic is how insurance industry responded in this change in environment. None of us expected that COVID-19 would affect Sri Lanka when Wuhan was infected later part of 2019. We all thought Sri Lanka is a safe place and continue our day-to-day activities as usual. But in March 2020, we realized that we were also part of this crisis along with other countries. We experienced imposing of island-wide police curfew, closing down of airport, discontinuation of public transport, shutting down of factories, offices, and also schools. Everyone was really frustrated, and we all felt sense of uncertainty, including our customers. Our customers and business partners too underwent the same level of stress that we have gone through. This was a drastic change for all of us, to our employees, to our customers, and to our business partners. General reaction of human beings to this kind of a drastic change is generally we all act as frustrated. We are depressed. Finally, we have to accept the change and moving on with the change. So our customers, having experienced this change, expected same level of service from insurance industry. So that is exactly what as insurers, insurance intermediaries, insurance providers that we were expected to deliver. And customers wanted to renew their policies. They want to make their claims payments happen on time, and also with their renewals and make insurance premiums. All these things were expected by our customers. That was a fair request. So at this point of time, government declared that insurance, along with other financial services, as essential services. That was a very good decision, and we are thankful for government making this happen. And this allowed big relief. This allowed insurance companies and intermediaries to continue their service. This was a big relief to customers. Secondly, good news to insurers and intermediaries. So we started working from offices. But the final challenge was not that. Customers in the insurance industry, we responded very positively by offering services to customers going beyond traditional methods. Web-based insurance solutions are provided to customers, and we also introduce PDF policies, digital motor certificates, different payment gateways, paperless claims services, and many more innovative solutions. And at this point of time, Pranama mentioned this as well, insurance regulator, IRCSL, extended credit facility given to customers from 60 days to 90 days. This was a very good proactive decision that all insurance companies granted 90 days credit to its customers. That was a great relief to customers. And from Fairfirst point of view, we provided end-to-end contactless insurance services throughout the customer journey, from the time of issuance of quotations, policies, renewals, and claim settlement. And also our virtual claim settlement, which we have started some time back, really worked well in this new situation. And learning from that, we also introduced virtual risk survey, where in a situation our risk engineers were not able to visit places physically to make the surveys. So all these things, innovative things, were introduced by insurance industry. And the next thing is how we manage with our employees. Pandemic situation or lockdown situation demanded our staff to work from homes. That this was a drastic change from our employees' perspective. And this is a situation where they have to manage their work-life balance accurately. So success or failure of handling work from home is totally dependent how you manage your human resource effectively. Insurance organizations did really well in this aspect. So many insurance organizations created office-like environment in offices, in homes, provided required equipment to their employees to carry out their day-to-day functions. Proper networking and connectivity facilities were given, and insurance companies helped their employees to manage their work-life balance as well. Work-life was a new challenge to Fairfirst as well. So our main concern was well-being of our employees whilst working from home. So we provided 24/7 well-being hotline just to inform their problems, their situations to us. So we provided immediate then and there solutions to our employees that make our employees confident and deliver, and they have gone beyond normal working hours and they extended work for us that enable us to provide better customer service to our customers and to our intermediaries. And at FairFirst, we conducted our first virtual town hall meeting with over 400 employees. And there we promised, or we gave them an assurance, none of their jobs will be affected due to COVID-19. That was a confidence that we gave to our employees. And also we conducted team meetings almost every day with our staff to make sure all are engaged and the work is done smoothly, and also listen to their problems. Not only that, we conducted online training that is about work-life balance through our FairFirst Academy. All these good things help our employees to deliver their tasks effectively. The insurance industry extended their support to intermediaries and business partners as well. This is to make sure we serve customers of our brokers, our business partners well. And they also should feel, just like our direct customers, they also should feel smoothness in these arrangements. So we conducted virtual meetings, dedicated service champions were appointed to look after the affairs of intermediaries. So these are some of the good things followed by insurance industry during this lockdown period. And finally, we have learned a lot from COVID-19 or pandemic situation. So what is now or what is next? So we have to understand problems and requirements of customers and other business partners, requirements of the situations, and we have to provide meaningful solutions fast and to move forward confidently. I think insurance industry from these learnings will definitely face next situation. It can be COVID, it can be something else, with very positively and confidently. Thank you. Manjula, over to you.
Thanks, Priyantha. Once again, very good presentation covering the service delivery challenges faced by the insurance industry and how the industry has coped with them with a variety of innovative responses. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. So we will now move on to the panel discussion, and I will just start off with a question from Jagat. At the same time, please start posting your questions on the chat box. After a few questions that I will put to the panel, we can pick up your questions as well. So let me start with an interesting question to Jagat. In some markets, Jagat, there is what is called unemployment insurance available to take care of people who lose their employment due to unforeseen circumstances like what we are experiencing today. So how does this work? And do we have such policies available in Sri Lanka? And if not, will it be possible for the insurance industry to introduce such policies, at least going forward, so that we are better prepared to meet this kind of a situation next time round? Would like to hear from you, Jagat.
Manjula, can you all hear me?
Yes,
hello?
Jagat. Yeah, can hear.
Actually, this is something, it's a very pity situation where if you go through annual report of any company, whether listed or unlisted, about 3-4 pages are there for human capital. But at the time of the corona, even somewhere in the first month itself, they lay off a lot of people, but also reduce a lot of salaries, perks were cut down. So I'm proud and privileged to be in the insurance industry. None of our companies have done that. So coming back to loss of employment, or I call redundancy cover, or a loss of income insurance, most of the countries, like to take, for example, Western countries and even New Zealand and Australia and UK, they have redundancy cover insurance, then employment protection. And what they does is these policies could be purchased by individuals. This is a separate class of business like life, pension fund management, and general insurance. It's a specialized class of business. But they cover the loss of employment and a redundancy due to certain specified reasons. One is accident, total permanent disability due to accidents, sickness, then bankruptcy of companies, and mergers and acquisitions. This has been extended. So the people like life policies is a long-term policy. You buy it, and if something unfortunate happened, and they will compensate it for 3 months, 6 months, maybe 1 year, depending on the terms and the premium you paid. So these are some of the commercial insurance are also doing this type of businesses, particular all major players. Either they have separate companies or they do it under their life company as a separate business. Even in Sri Lanka, if you take mortgage protection insurance, all insurance companies, there is an extension under your mortgage protection. If you lose your job due to serious sickness or permanent disability due to accident, your total loan outstanding will be settled. It's a sort of a unemployment benefit insurance. So this is what the individuals can buy from the companies, insurance companies or the providers, unemployment insurance or redundancy insurance. But in certain countries, particularly Middle Eastern and countries like Egypt, they have a scheme where the loss of income protection is provided by the state. But for that, there is a compulsory premium paid to a particular organization, maybe the state, like you are paying EPF, ETF, and then the government will step in and pay the salaries in a situation like this. For example, in Bahrain, in addition to your pension fund contribution and all other government state contribution to various state funds, 1% of your salary for Bahrainis will have to contribute it to the state, like compulsory basis, like EPF, ETF, compulsory basis, and then the government during this COVID-19, the first 3 months they paid the full salary, the company, then the company would pay to the respective employee. And after 3 months, now they are paying 50% for the next 3 months for the badly affected industries like tourism, aviation, restaurants, hotel industry. So this is another scheme. Either you have a government scheme or you can go for a scheme like unemployment insurance from private sector. So at this stage, with the statistics available, I don't think the actuaries can calculate the premiums because of this Corona-19, where they don't have the past experience. It's very difficult to calculate premiums. So I think the immediate solution is government to step in and set up EPF, ETF like organization, or maybe contribute to NITF, a particular salary on compulsory basis to protect the employees. And most of the countries are now looking into it, particularly India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all these countries in our region are now are looking into the unemployment insurance or redundancy cover. But it's something new. So I think Chamber could explore this with the insurance regulator or the government. That's a good scheme to protect the employees in the future. Yes, Manjula.
Yeah, thanks, Jagat. I think that's one area we need to really explore and see, either through the public sector or the private sector, or maybe in combination, we need to sort of come up with some kind of a cover, because this is a concern the businesses are having, because they also would like to retain people in their jobs, and people also would certainly like the comfort that, you know, in the event of this type of crisis resulting in a temporary form of unemployment, say for 3 months or 6 months, that there is some kind of a protection to take care of it. So maybe something we will try to work on with the relevant parties. Let me now move on to another area. Pranama, there's a question actually in the chat box, which is very similar to what I had in mind for you. So I will pick up the question directly from the chat box that someone has posted here. Are COVID-19 related deaths covered under existing life insurance policies?
Yeah. COVID-19 deaths are covered under the life insurance policies. There is no issue on that. But for me to take it a bit further, life policies does have not only death claims, but life policies also have other sort of claims in it. One can be on hospitalization, per day hospitalization allowances, and though death is covered under life insurance, the rest of the claims, which is hospitalization related claims, is an exclusion under for COVID-19, which goes as a pandemic is an exclusion for health related claims. But the entire insurance industry at the beginning of this COVID outbreak unanimously agreed that if there happens to be any hospitalization related claims due to COVID, that the industry together will honor all those claims, though the policy says that you don't have to pay it. So the life industry, I think even the general industry who is doing health related insurance have all are paying for COVID related illnesses for hospitalization, as well as if somebody dies, it is definitely covered under the policy.
Thanks, Pranama. So it's very clear the death is covered technically under the policy, but whereas health expenses are not covered in a technical sense, but industry has still come forward to honor such claims, which I think is something we should appreciate. I recall a similar stand was taken by the insurance industry when we had the tsunami in 2004, where actually most policies did not have the tsunami cover, but the industry got together and agreed to honor most of those claims. So I think that is something the business community should appreciate. If I may move on to another question, this I will put to maybe Anuradha. Interesting question. Is the cost of quarantine covered under the medical policy? If there is a cost involved, because of course in Sri Lanka, most of the time the government incurred that cost, but there are also certain quarantine facilities which are available at a cost. And also in the case of a travel policy, say while traveling, unexpectedly you are subjected to a period of quarantine, and let's say you have to incur a cost. Now, can that be claimed under the travel policy? Will you be able to answer to that?
Yeah, thanks, Manjula. The surgical and hospitalization expense policy clearly states it covers medical and surgical expenses. So I think so far there is no provision under any policy to pay for quarantine or the cost of expenses incurred by any person whilst at the quarantine center. Same with the travel insurance industry, because we are paying for emergency medical expenses. So staying in a quarantine center is not considered as a medical expense. It's something that a government has decided to put a person into isolation for his own safety and the public. So that is not being considered as medical expense. So we will not be able to cover that kind of expenses under the policy.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'll pick up another question or two from the chat box. It's good to see questions flowing in now from the participants. I'll put this to Priyantha. There are two questions which are somewhat related, so I think we can couple them. What will be the impact on Sri Lankan insurance market with possible downgrades or bankruptcy of reinsurers? I doubt anyone going bankrupt as a result of this, but in the event. And also, what's the reinsurance perspective regarding COVID-19 claims? Will you be able to answer both of them?
Yes, Manjula, it's a very good question. Before COVID-19 struck reinsurers or insurance industry, the reinsurers were suffered from many other losses, Nat Cat losses, and many other losses. COVID-19 also added to their loss basket. And this has, we have seen many reinsurers have started hardening their prices, increase their prices. Reinsurers have suffered losses. So as reinsurers, what we have seen is, so downgrading we have seen from our neighbor country. We have seen GIC, General Insurance Corporate, downgrading of GIC, and also New India. So GIC and New India, they are participating in many treaties of Sri Lanka and many reinsurance arrangements of Sri Lanka. But GIC's downgrade is still at an acceptable level of Sri Lankan insurance market. So there is no fear factor that anyone has to build on because GIC is downgraded. Because GIC is downgraded mainly because of their losses from their claims as well as the losses that they have got from their investment returns. So GIC, because I'm talking a lot about GIC, GIC is involved heavily in Sri Lankan market. So GIC's position is they have taken actions to come back, and they will definitely come back by this December as per. We are in regular contact with GIC. So GIC will provide solutions and they will come back and they will get back their original rating. And GIC is one of the largest reinsurer. They were in the top 10 last year. And so I'm sure they will definitely get back. Manjula, what is your second question?
Second question was, what's the reinsurance perspective regarding COVID-19 claims?
Yeah, so it depends on the cover. I think Dr. Jagat explained this very clearly. So it depends on the cover that you have given to your customers. So if you take the basic cover where you need material damage to pay business interruption claim, then the reinsurance will honor that pay. But COVID claims, many insurance companies have not extended covers to include COVID. So the reinsurance protection, what the reinsurance has given to insurance industry is based on the original policy. So if any insurer has not extended cover to include infectious disease, either to premises or to, as Mr. Alvis mentioned, to various radius limits, then there is no cover. But depending on the cover, I know some insurance companies have given cover. So based on the cover, reinsurers and insurers will honor those claims. Hope I answered.
Priyantha, thanks. Let me pick up one more question regarding long-term credit risk for say maybe 6 months, whether we can have some insurance to guarantee overseas suppliers of payments. My first gut reaction to that before I put it to the panel is this, I think, is outside the scope of insurance, but let me ask Jagat whether insurance industry can deal with this type of credit risk.
Yeah, actually the credit insurance is not something where the insurance companies have appetite, and but the trade credit is something which we are giving. The companies can give it to retail or the brown goods, brown and white goods suppliers. It's you have to cover your entire portfolio, but the rate you for each and every customer, say for example, somebody who's supplying electronic equipment or things like that. But the present rate is around 10%. and if you have to cover the entire portfolio. So I don't think they also are importing and selling it. They have margins of 10%. And basically, the credit controlling the systems, we have only the crib, but most of the reinsurance, they are not happy with that. But if you take giving financial guarantees to financial institutions or banks or whatever it is, I think it's out of insurance appetite.
Thanks, Jagat. Okay, there are a lot of questions coming in, so we'll try and accommodate as many as possible. Yes, I think this is probably better put this to Pranam because it's a life insurance related question. We are facing difficulties to get confirmation from reinsurer for most of the DTA policies where the customers are currently overseas. Any solutions to solve these kind of problems? So maybe the issue is, if the customer is overseas, probably getting the medicals done, and I don't know, maybe there are practical limitations. Pranama, do you think you can respond to that?
Yes, Manjula. Actually, it depends from who the reinsurer is and what their terms and conditions are, because reinsurers have given special instructions during the COVID-19 period, and mainly most of the reinsurers are not in favor of insuring people who are overseas at the moment because of the situation of the situation with COVID-19. And whether you really want to insure somebody overseas is a negotiation that the insurance company will have to take up with the reinsurer, provide justification as to why you want to insure them, and then give whatever the details that they want, and then take a permission from them to insure. You can do that, and we have done so many cases like that, but then there has to be a proper justification as to why we need to go ahead and take an additional risk at this moment.
Of course, if it is a DTA policy, it's probably a bank customer who may be overseas at this particular point in time, because as you know, a lot of people went abroad before the lockdown, then they got held up in different countries. So probably these are people like that, Pranama.
Yeah, it is so, Manjula. The general instructions given by most of the reinsurers is not to accept, but they are allowing with the proper justification from the insurance company. The problem arises when there is a need for medical reports from that customer, and then when a customer is overseas, that it is somewhat difficult for that customer to provide that information. So if it is a standard risk, a standard health condition of the customer, then it is easy for the acceptance. But if it is non-standard, then you need further medical information before underwriting that risk. So that is where the problem arises. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah, okay, no, it's clear. Okay, a few more questions are coming up. Okay, one more. It's a very general question, so anybody can respond. The COVID-19 pandemic has altered several business sectors in Sri Lanka. So will the industry look to come up with specific products in the future to cover the challenges? Who would like to do that? Because we talked of several gaps which are there in the market. So anyone sees opportunities to come up with new products?
Yeah, actually the reinsurers, they are trying to put products forward like a standalone COVID cover and things like that. But the problem is they don't have statistics. The statistics are still, information is still, coming in, and you don't have any proper risk assessment could be done before come out with some standalone business interruption cover and things like that. But one major insurer is already started doing research on this, and they have halfway through they have given up. At even present scenario, the rate could be very uneconomical for the customer, and that will not be a commercial viable project. So they have worked towards it and still not come forward anything to support a situation like this. Maybe in future, yes. Maybe in future. When I'm saying future, it's not within next 1 year. Because even if we come out with a product now, the COVID-19 is still continuing. So it's a continuing risk, they exclude it. So it's of no use even if it comes at this stage. That's why I said maybe 1 year, everything is settled and then the statistics are available. Then there could be a situation where we can come out with some new products. Pranama?
Yes, at the moment, we also came up with initially a separate COVID-19 product, but it was not launched because of the uncertainty in the present situation. So the problem is no insurer knows what it is. The insurance rates are derived through past statistics, going through the history of how things happen and all that. So that is how the premium is generated. But COVID is something really new to everybody, and no one knows how to set the premium. So that is the problem at the moment with COVID.
Manjula, just to add, Dr. Jagat and Pranama, both Dr. Jagat and Pranama spoke about COVID insurance for COVID covers. But with the COVID development of pandemic situation, many of our employees of insurance organizations, employees of our customers are now forced to work from home. Pranama mentioned 100% of the employees are working from home. The new development is cyber risk. So where all our computers are exposed to cyber risk because we don't have security as we have in offices. So now many insurance companies are developing cyber products to cater that need. That is a new development in the insurance industry. So we have launched our cyber insurance product, and that we have very good response from insurance industry for that product.
Yeah, thanks, Priyanta. I'm trying to get through as many questions as possible. There's one more which I think Jagat covered. So let's see whether we need to elaborate on this. In case if a person identified as a COVID-19 infected in a workplace, say in a garment factory, and the factory is closed for some time, is any local insurer providing cover for business interruption currently? I think Jagat gave the answer to this, that it is covered if a patient is found affected with COVID, then as a result there is a closure. And if you have
and also they have taken the particular cover.
Yes, yes. So the cover will be there, right? If business interruption cover has been taken. So that is one area where there is potential for a claim if cover is available, and also going forward an incentive for people to take out that kind of a cover. Yeah, somebody's interested in knowing what happened with the Wimbledon claim on pandemic. I don't know whether anyone is aware of that.
Yes, actually that one, and also the Olympics postponed. Of the Olympic Games, there's event cancellation cover, and the huge amounts has to be paid, which is something like 130 million pounds, both events. But the premium they collected was less than 30 million pounds over the last 10-15 years. So even the Olympics one was paid, the other one, they're liable, but it's a big claim, two big claims.
So there was no exclusion on pandemics in the business. Sorry, this is more like an event cancellation.
Event cancellation. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay, that's interesting. Some very good questions. Actually, we have an excellent audience today who are asking some very relevant questions. And okay, this is also very good. Maybe I'll put this to Priyanta because it relates to some of the things you were talking about. Most of employees are working from home now. Is there any impact on workmen compensation policies?
Actually, workman compensation policy is given if anything happens to your employees whilst they are engaged in the work, whether they work from office or they work from elsewhere, the workman policy covers that risk. So there is no doubt if an employee who is working from home suddenly meet with an accident as a cause of the employment, then that cover is there. So there is no problem with the workman compensation, but there is an extension to this workman compensation policy, the wider cover, where you get whether the accident happens whilst at work or whilst engaged in work. That is the personal accident insurance policy, that if our employees, so we are covered under personal accident policy, whether at work or not, 100% cover is there.
I guess the only issue will be to like prove whether some injury happened while at work or otherwise when it happens at home. Now, when it happens at work, I mean, you know very clearly it is work related. But when it happens at home, whether it happened while you are at work or otherwise may be a little difficult to establish. But
yeah, it depends on the circumstances, Manjula. Now, so we need to go into detail of the accident. So say for example, if say for example someone is working in his laptop and suddenly lightning happens and there is an injury to your employee, then definitely workman compensation policy covers. But during when the person is working from home, if he had to go out to buy something, and that kind of situation is not covered under workman compensation policy. But personal accident policy covers both aspects.
Or your wife hit you.
Yes, because you are too annoyed. Yeah, you're spending too much time in home.
Yeah, it is actually the employer's legal responsibility that covers under workman's compensation. So whether the employer is responsible for the employee is the question that needs to be answered. And if by any chance, if it is proven that the employer is responsible, then the policy covers that. And even if the wife hits because of husband is working too much, employee is responsible for that.
There seem to be a lot of interesting possibilities on that. So let me put another question to Anuradha. There appears to be a demand for travel insurance cover, including the pandemic, because apparently to travel to some countries, it is mandatory to have such a cover. So the question is there any development on including the pandemic to a travel policy?
As I mentioned in my presentation, there's a high demand for COVID-19 cover under travel insurance, but at the moment the answer is no, because the insurers are not ready yet to provide that cover. But there is a possibility that into the future that we will come up with COVID-19 cover for the travelers.
Okay, thanks. And one more question is, I think again we have quite a few bankers, I believe, today in the audience. Judging by the nature of some of the questions, currently banks grant moratorium for their loan customers with and without the guideline of CBSL. So as such, irrespective of that, irrespectively, DTA policy coverage will extend. If so, how does it cover? I think if I rephrase the question a little bit, the issue here is that the loan itself will get extended. If so, can you extend the DTA cover as well? Pranama?
Yes, definitely the DTA cover can be extended provided the bank is willing to pay the additional premium for the extension. And also it depends on the banks during the moratorium period. One is central bank issued instructions to provide moratorium, and then there is banks voluntarily given a moratorium period to the customer. Then there is also whether the banks charge the interest during the moratorium period or not. So depending on all that, the insurance companies decide whether we need to charge the additional premium or not. So it depends from the relationship that each insurance company has with each bank. And in certain instances, I know that certain insurance companies has provided free cover for the moratorium period or the additional extension of DTAP cover without charging any premium. And in certain instances, the insurance companies have charged an additional premium, depending whether the bank has actually charged interest during the moratorium period or not.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. Okay, one more question. I think this is more to the general insurance people on the panel. Is there any concession given to vehicles used for tourism, reflecting the reduction in claims? Because, as you know, the tourism drivers are unable to make full use of their vehicles, and particularly during the curfew period, they were hardly used. So any concession the general insurance industry is able to offer on the premiums of such vehicles? Anybody has thought about that?
It's like so many industries were affected, and what will happen is, say, it's not only tourism, maybe the private buses, three-wheelers. So if you try to give various concessions for all these sectors, our cost has not come down. Maybe it's claim cost, yes. So what will happen is, to finally we'll have to increase the prices of the future this thing because of these reliefs. At the moment, I don't think, but we are given 3 months period to settle the premium, and that's something the industry has done. I don't know, Pranam. Sorry, Priyante.
So far, you are right, Dr. Alice. What we have discussed so far is there are so many requests have come from many industries. The thing is, we have not decided as an insurance industry to give any concession at this moment, but we'll let you know if there is any concessions. That at the moment there is no such decision taken.
Something maybe we can look at in future is usage-based kind of vehicle insurance policies, where now if it was on that kind of a model where the premium is dependent on the extent of usage, then probably one would have qualified for a reduced premium, I suppose, because the usage would have been lower during certain periods. But unfortunately, I don't think that kind of policy exists in the local market. Right?
Yes, Manjul, actually, that's a very good question. Usage-based or mileage-based insurance, the pay-as-you-drive. So that kind of insurance, the many insurance organizations are thinking about it. We have invested on it, and we are thinking of it. Very soon, there are a lot of products from the industry to cover usage-based insurance. Especially this will be really good for tourism industry and hiring industry, those who have lost a lot of business because of this pandemic situation. So they will pay less premium if they use their vehicle less mileage. So these products will definitely come to the market.
Yeah, this may be a good opportunity to introduce such a product because people will appreciate the value of such a thing because so that, there are times when you hardly use an asset, you can then get a benefit by way of a reduced premium. Okay, one more question is, when the airport is opened, will the insurers look at the option to extend cover to include COVID-19 related hospital expenses and quarantine expenses as well, including airlifting of mortal remains? Anuradha, you're the expert on travel and health.
Now, at the moment, there are a lot of discussions going on that is to support the local industry. But then again, as I mentioned, we need to find some backup from the reinsurance industry in order to give this type of cover for the industry. So at the moment, we are evaluating it, and there's a demand from the government also to provide that kind of cover for inbound travelers. So I think very soon the industry will do 6 months. But then with regard to the death of a passenger whilst in Sri Lanka, I think the law is very clear. You're not supposed to repatriate the body. So only option available is to cremation. So that might be considered in the future, how we could accommodate that kind of request as well.
Okay, I think it's like, yeah, we seem to have covered most of the questions that we have got on the chat box, and we are probably at the time we had initially scheduled to complete. Let me just see once again whether there is anything I have missed out. We had some very good questions and we got some good responses too. Okay, here is one more. May I know the clause that refrain insurance companies by paying BI under COVID? So I think again, if I rephrase it slightly, asking the clause under which the BI policy excludes a COVID type of situation.
No, it's actually not a clause to exclude it, but the basic cover is the BI policy will respond. There's a material damage in your policy. There's no material damage, the BI policy will not respond. There's no specific exclusion. There's no cover given.
Okay, yeah, I think so. It's not an exclusion by a clause, but it's absence of the cover
given
altogether. Yeah, yeah. Also, there is a question. I think one, Mr. Sivakumar, you have repeated this a few times, but I think the answer was given. So I will again repeat the answer regarding a person who's identified as COVID infected in a workplace, and if the factory is closed for some time, then if you had the relevant for business interruption, then you could make a claim. Of course, I mean, we cannot take a specific case here in this discussion, so you'll have to talk to your insurer if there is a specific claim. But the principle is that there's potential for a claim if a particular person in that factory was affected, and as a result there is closure, not as a result of a general lockdown, but as a result of a specific case being identified, then there is potential for a claim, provided the cover is available, right? I mean, that is what you told, no, Jagat?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I think with that, maybe we can bring this discussion to a close. We have covered a lot of questions, and I think we had a very good discussion with all the panel members contributing. So thank you very much to everyone. Let me bring this to a close. Once again, thanking the Insurance Association of Sri Lanka, who responded very positively to our invitation to do a joint webinar as a collaboration between the Chamber and IASL. And also thank you very much to Fairfirst Insurance for coming forward to sponsor this event, and also to our resource panel who were excellent today, both in the initial presentations as well as in responding to questions. We have had a very interesting webinar, and at one point I saw we had almost 199 participants I saw at one point. I don't know whether we crossed 100 or not, or whether we got bowled out for 99, but it's still a very good number considering the fact that today a lot of people are at work and also busy with other commitments. In spite of that, we have had, I think, a very good audience, a mixed audience of people from banks, from industry, as well as the insurance market. So once again, thank you very much to everyone, and I wish you a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.